What's coming today? Right, going live now.
The whole Liam Kumar Day effect, not really happening.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendenhall and he said he could make it.
Don't think this whole Phil, credit to the guy, always manages to do well what he has, but he is a shocking personality. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-vim.
No, my life from Rashad Mendenhall.
Right, here we go. I'm a tag, Jack! I'm a fucking tag!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report, and it is a special episode today because it is the 1st of December, which means we are officially in the business end of the season. So that means it's time to go into your kitchen, it's time to open that drawer because the cutlery's coming out. Yeah, stick a fork in them. That's going to be the feature we get to today on the debate corner, and of course we need Chris to do that. How's it going, Chris?
He's going very well indeed. It's been a very busy couple of weeks for me. I have to say, been a little bit drained, but we're getting there. So as time goes on, yes, hopefully we should become less drained, and I can spend more time talking to you, lovely people, and hopefully some because we were in prime time. We genuinely are prime time today because it's night.
Oh yes.
Hopefully we can get a few more people in, so you can listen to some of our musings about our league. But, there might be some things that can transfer over to yours as well. So, welcome.
Absolutely, yeah. And as you say, we've just had a couple of, it's really been a good day of World Cup because, Belgium, spoilers if you've not watched the game, Belgium not making it through from the 3 o'clock games, and then Germany not making it through. Now, what better way? That was the starter, that was the main. Now your dessert is the LOC report, and who else to hold you up any further? So let's get back into the recaps of week 12. 3 weeks away from the playoffs, of course. Only 2 games to go now in the playoff race. So we'll start off with the marquee matchup, which featured a tied division leaders in the Portsmouth division, Gridiron Gang and Detonators. Gridiron Gang and Detonators duked it out in Week 12's marquee matchup to determine who will take the lead in the Portsmouth division. The winner of this game would have a 1-win lead over the other and take supremacy in the division. And only one could obviously do it. These two were the highest scoring teams entering the week. And Gridiron Gang, after losing to Detonators earlier in the same fixture in the season, comes on top in this one over Detonators, 125 to 80 points. Looking down the lineups, Josh Allen had a fine day with 33 points. And then it was a real team effort behind that because Travis Kelce got 12, Samaje Perine as a spot start for Joe Mixon got 15, Kenneth Walker got 16, Rashad White got 11, and the Dolphins defense, they came through big time with 24 points. On the other side of the board for Detonators, their worst week in some time. Geno Smith had an okay day with 23 points, relieving for the injured Justin Fields. DeAndre Hopkins got 15, CeeDee Lamb got 12, Derrick Henry got 11, and Daniel Carlson got 10, but no other players there over 6 points for Ollie. A couple of injuries with Etienne and Carter also let them down. So Gridiron Gang goes to 8-4, they take the lead in the division, but Detonators falls to 7-5, and the history of this matchup all time, Gridiron Gang, I believe, are now 6-12 all time against Detonators. Yes, they are. So, only one could win, Chris. It was a hotly contested game entering. It didn't quite end up that way come the end of the game, though, did it?
No, it didn't, and I have to say I've got to give you a lot of credit for that. I think you have to take your hat off to the GMing skills this week because yes, Josh Allen's had a great day and he has done all year, and Kelsey's obviously a very high floor guy, but having a three back engine room of Samaje Perine and White was probably not expected at the beginning of the season. I think if anyone put money on that, they would have had a serious amount of wedge by now.
I'm glad you made that point because I had the exact same thought going into this week. If you'd have told me I was starting these 3 guys at this point in the season.
Throw the dice, not trying to win the thing. But yeah, impressive nonetheless, and obviously a spot start the Dolphins D as well. Completely derided on this podcast all year, but we're going to say this in this instance, extremely good result. Dolphins D.
I picked the one game. You've got to pick that one game for them.
There's no point playing him for 12 weeks or 11 weeks Yeah, that's it. And not have a 24-point week. So congratulations. Yes, they played the Texans, which doesn't really count. That's it. But yeah, I mean, just all round hit it out the park with some real sort of borderline selections. And Terry McLaurin is still in there. I'm not sure he's rejuvenated and risen from the dead yet, but Brian Robinson, as we've talked about all year, has indeed been risen from nearly the dead, and he was on your bench with 18 points as well. So congratulations there. I like to see that. On the other side, one thing you don't like to see at this time of the year is a 0.3 point, and 3 rushing yards only and an injured player does not really bode well for Ollie going forward. Also, Michael Carter's banged up as well, not so good either. So yeah, lots of to worry about there. It's a little bit strange how he dropped Devontae Foreman. I know that they playing the Denver Broncos defense and they're very, very good, but at the same time, he's been an absolute battering ram since he started, and 113 yards on the day. I know it wouldn't make that much of a difference, but I don't know. It's just when you got a guy who's rolling, you just go with the guy who's rolling, don't you? Otherwise, let's say top half looks all right, bottom half looks pretty poor. 80 points is not a shoddy result, but again, just can't beat out that defensive score. So yes, congratulations to you. You march on. That's it. This big game to win. I bet this was quite well received at your house on Sunday night. But yes, Ollie's still very much in the hunt, albeit this is a bit of a setback for a divisional win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, look, if you're in Ollie's position, I think 80 points really is this team's floor. And when you look at that 80 points being the floor, and as you said, Chris, 2 players who went out injured, not even combining for 4 points, and you still got 80, that's a pretty good result. On balance, like you say, if you point to Devonta Foreman and even Isaiah Pacheco on the bench there, that would have got him, I think, over 100 points or pretty damn close to it. Obviously being 2 healthy players, like you say as well. I was a bit surprised to see Michael Carter come into it. I get it on the one hand, the Chicago defense has been terrible against the run, but I kind of also see your point completely as well. While the Denver run defense is formidable, Donta Foreman, is, he's been getting all of that work in the Carolina backfield, where Michael Carter has been splitting a bit. I know James Robinson wasn't active for this game, but Michael Carter isn't one of those backs that you just saddle up on and give him 30 touches a game. So I picked myself to win in this one, so off to the week in a good start in more ways than one, as you said. It was very happily received in my household. We'll see how the next game goes then, which featured 2 other playoff hopefuls. Ixan took on Bare Necessities as well in Week 12. This was another titanic matchup in the Southampton division. See what I did there? Ixan entering this one 10-1. Meanwhile, Bare Necessities at 7-4. Ixan pretty much there to the playoffs. Still not quite confirmed. I think a win would have I said last week, a win would have punched their ticket to the playoffs. I mean, off Bare Necessities, they needed to win to keep up in the wildcard race and or the points wildcard as well. Get some points on the board. Well, they got some points and they got the win to boot, giving Ixan their second loss of the year, dropping them to 10-12. Bare Necessities moves to 8-4. 98-85 was the final score in this one, so a fairly close game. For Bare Necessities, Lamar Jackson didn't have a particularly great day, but still got 25 points. Chris Godwin got 17, can't stop getting the touchdowns now. Austin Eckler got 14, and the Niners D got 19 to top it off. En route to that, 98 points. On the other side of the board for Ixan, Patrick Mahomes had an okay day in a game where they were running the ball a bit more than usual. He got 20. James Conner got 18, and Justin Tucker got 15. No other players over 10 points there. Not what you want to see at this point in the season. Lots of Qs, as we can see there as well, which is also not a good thing. So the history of this matchup all time, Bare Necessities are now 6-12 against Ixan. It was actually another good episode title would have been It's the Week of the Underdog, because that's 2 games now where the massive underdog, according to history, is won. Bare Necessities has been a good team, but softened of late, but they take one away from Ixan here, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, this is again something about consistent point scorers in your team, I think. And I think when you've got guys at this kind of time of the season, so Lamar, Chris Godwin, Eckler, guys with a high floor. AJ Brown, high floor. Singletary somehow has a high floor. I know he's playing Detroit, but 49 good result on the day. So don't get shot at very often and did a lot of good things. It's important to know that that's the case, and I think the difference between the 2 teams really is it's a defensive score, because otherwise I can't get massively excited about either team, to be quite honest. and this is a defensive score for Dave, that is, with 19 points from the 49ers D. Because the Ravens scored 8, Justin Tucker did his thing, scoring 15, and but yeah, aside from that, it wasn't a particularly very good skill position day for Ben, mainly because everyone got injured in some form or another. James Conner had a good day, and Mahomes had a all right day, if not 20 points is okay. But again, we've seen Mahomes carry Ben to victories beyond that point scoring this year. So yeah, touchdowns were a problem in this game. We've all been there this year, offensively, you just don't see it. But I think going forward, Ben's going to be feeling a little bit dodgy on this one because, the bench ain't coming to life. There ain't really a great deal outside of a Tyler Lockett spot start there. I mean, even then, can you really trust the Seattle offense week to week? But seeing Debo, McCaffrey, Gibson all have separate injuries is not something you want to do when you're about to mount a playoff run.
Yeah, and this is eerily familiar territory for Ben. Obviously, that Corona Bowl against you, where granted, any team that loses their 2 starting running backs at that point in the season is going to face an uphill battle. But yeah, had perilously little depth to overcome it. And I mentioned last week as well, Ben pretty much being there. His attention's probably going to be turning to, as you say, padding out the depth because, it's just not there at the moment. Ben Estes with a slightly better day than they have had recently. Some players failing a bit more than usual, like Dameon Pierce. Devin Singletary is a guy he's okay, but he's never a massive point getter. But yeah, they got the job done today, like you said. Some injury woes for Ben as well, like you said. That lack of depth could really rear its ugly head, unfortunately, for Ben as we go through the weeks. And so Ixan drops another one, but probably still okay. Not quite science-sealed and delivered, as we'll see in a bit. And Ben Estes keeps themselves in the race. I did pick Ixan in this one to win, though, unfortunately, so I dropped one there. Let's see how I did with the rest of the week, starting with the other Southampton matchup game. Bucking the trend, the present holder, or the entering the week, I should say, holding the wildcard spot, take on Neapolitans, a team that I think with a win could have potentially, would have mathematically kept themselves in the wildcard race, the normal wildcard that is, but they did not do that, as Bucking the Trend emphatically stamped their claim on the wildcard spot, and maybe a bit more than Ixan losses. They now moved to 9-3. 4-game winning streak, just one behind Ixan, beating off Neapolitans, who had a fairly respectable 98 points themselves. Looking at the scores, Tua Tagovailoa, who has been a really good player for Bucking Trend on the field this year, he didn't do too great in this one. He got 18 points, but it didn't matter. Because Josh Jacobs decided to have a walk-off 80-yard touchdown en route to 42 points. That'll definitely punctuate your ticket to the playoffs. Keenan Allen also chipped in with 11, and Morale St. Brown with 19. Jeff Wilson 11, Saquon Barkley 11, and only the special teams under 10 points there en route to that 1-2-3. So good day overall for Bucking the Trend. On the other side of the board for Neapolitans, they'll be a bit gutted. Obviously that final touchdown makes this loss look a bit wider than the game actually was. Jalen Hurts, he got 33 points. Tyreek Hill just came under 10 with 9. T. Higgins got 17, Ramondre Stevenson got 11, G. Harris 10, and he left the game injured too, by the way, and Jacoby Myers, Jason Myers, the kicker for the Seahawks, he got 10 as well. So, Neapolitans lose this one, 5-7. They are now out of the traditional wildcard race, and the history of this matchup all time, Bucking the Trend takes the lead as well. They tied up 2-2 all time against Neapolitans. So, as one playoff team falls, or is falling, Bucking the Trend seem to be going from strength to strength, Chris.
Absolutely. So Bucking the Trend are doing extremely well, and their key guys are kicking in at just the right time in the year. You can't argue with the fact that the top half of, in fact, all the skill positions last week were extremely solid. I mean, you look at that, double digits all round, and we obviously like to see, long-term listeners of the podcast will know that if we like to see that in your skill positions all weeks, but let alone when you are competing for the playoffs. But yeah, we must talk about those two, as you say, Josh Jacobs and Tua, because I mean, Josh Jacobs has been an absolute revelation fantasy. So we knew that he was a good player, but I'm not sure we knew he would get this amount of volume this year. In really quite a tepid offense, I have to say. It's
very concentrated between Devontae Adams and just Jacobs, both facets of the game, like you say. And Jacobs is previously a guy who's not been able to stay healthy with even the workload he did have. So yeah, like you say, it's very surprising to see.
Yeah, exactly. It's not happening in real life for him, for them, but
Yeah.
But for fantasy purposes, you cannot argue that. So yeah, I mean, and I feel for Napolitans, I feel for Dave, because he seems to be the team that everybody scores on every single week, and I just can't quite understand it. There's some really nice points tables up that he puts up, but just can't pick up the wins at the right time, sadly. But there's a lot to like in that team. Obviously, Jalen Hurts has been really good here. Tyreek's been a monster. T. Higgins has been the number one guy for the last few weeks. Stevenson was a great mid-round pickup and has obviously taken that backfield. Harris hasn't hit the heights, but he's hit the points this week. So there's still a lot to like. But when you come up against the skill positions there that Mike's got, it's very difficult to be able to beat that. And I think that going forward, especially with Keenan Allen hopefully coming back and being fit fills that hole that he had that he couldn't really fill with another player through the mid weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So this team's going to go from strength to strength, I think, throughout the next few weeks, because they're only on one trajectory, and that is the playoffs.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, so still got the 1-game lead in the wild card, as we'll see in a bit. But yeah, everything seems to be clicking, like you say. They're getting healthier. Just in a week where a lot of teams seem to have a lot of injuries. We saw with the Detonators, they got a couple in the previous game. Both teams had a few injuries in this one as well. Jeff Wilson, I think he left the game either early or left and came back. Tyreek Hill, I think he got cramp as well. Najee Harris obviously left and didn't come back as well. So nothing really too major on the injury front this week, as we'll find when we get to in the new section. But yeah, lots of these little ones that just kind of have a bit of a butterfly effect. Wouldn't have changed the result here, as you say. Naponte has a decent day, but yeah, it doesn't quite get it done. I picked Mike to win that one though, so 2-1 in the old pick'em. So we'll see how we do in this next one, where we go back to the Portsmouth division. The Dream Team took on Forge Flyers here. The Dream Team already eliminated from the traditional wildcard spot, trying to upset the apple cart of Forge Flyers with the Gridiron Gang win. Well, it didn't matter who won in that game, but basically Chris needed to win to have a reasonable mathematical chance of winning the division still. And it was a close one, but Viv does get the upset and actually draws within one win of Forge Flyers. They're now 5-7, 2-game win streak. Meanwhile, Forge Flyers, unfortunately, on a 4-game slide, back to 6-6 with 84 points on the day. Looking down the lineups for Dream Team, Joe Burrow got 20, Stephon Diggs got 14, DJ Moore, he's back with Sam Darnold, he got 16, Harrison Butker got 14, en route to a fairly solid 89 points there, 90 points. On the other side of the board for Forge Flyers, Kyler Murray, back from injury, had a decent day as well, 29 points. Nick Chubb had a very good day, 19 points. Graham Gano got 11. No other player over 10 points though, unfortunately. Again, I think Cam Akers did pick up an injury in this game as well, so again, that's rearing its ugly head, those little gritty injuries. So the history of this matchup all time now, the Dream Team are 8-7 against Forge Flyers, so they take the series. And unfortunately for you, Chris, put your playoff chances in pretty much last chart and saloon.
Oh, yeah, very much so. I think you can fork us both in this one. To be honest, I think it's got more of a chance of being able to hit the points forward playoff spot, but I have absolutely no chance. I make no bones about that. I also make no bones about the fact that I'm only aiming for 500 this year, and I'm on track to do that. So there you go. It's all about how you get there. So I hate to say it, viewers, as well as I have lost all statistics. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find a way, because for some reason the NFL.com website decides to just take away all figures all the time.
Is that the ad? Is that when it does the ad thing, the banner thing at the sides? Right. Here's a good trick for you. Are you using an iPad, Chris?
I am not.
Okay.
I'm using a Mac at this point, so I'll get all in.
Afterwards, I will send you the link to an ad blocker thing, which I downloaded onto my iPad and has completely stopped all of that stuff, because I completely agree. Whoever's designing NFL Fantasy must know this happens, because they're fairly common devices. And as you say, the ad pops up and you can see your players and stuff still, but completely takes away all other information, which is not really the point of a fantasy website. So
Too bloody annoying. So yes, but the good news is that I know my own team, which is good. So yeah, the reason why there was a loss this week. Firstly, I was a bit of a pussy and didn't play Traylon Burks when I probably should have done. I was on the fence between.
I was quite, I was quite surprised when I saw that you didn't play Traylon Burks. I can't. I'm not going to be. I don't think I would particularly criticise you for not playing him over the players you played. But yeah, I thought you would have found a way to work him into your lineup somewhere.
Yeah, I must admit I taught myself out of it several times. I don't remember why I did that, but I wish I hadn't. Secondly, I picked the wrong defense. Obviously, the one you streamed was the better one, and I thought that they would do a damn sight better against Pittsburgh than they did, but they didn't. This is the Colts. This is so yeah, not ideal. And thirdly, can we just talk about the absolute day Alvin Kamara had? My God,
Yeah.
I was looking through my hands, just like, oh, what is going on here? Yeah, he had a chance to score a touchdown, fumbled at the goal line. You just think, come on. At that point, your day's over. You just might as well just give up and go home. So yeah, I'll tell you how to Viv. He's got near enough 90 points. A good score, really good score. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of my team just shit the bed last week and just didn't quite work out. So
No, yeah.
But can't take away the fact that he's got three guys. He's got a 20-point quarterback, a 13 and change scorer, a 16 and change scorer, and a 14-point kicker, and that's what's taking him across the line.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like you say, I don't think anyone can point to you and say you lost this when Alvin Kamara had the day he did have. Take away his 2 fumbles, and this is a pretty damn close game. Like you say, if he doesn't fumble it there and he lowers his shoulder or whatever and gets into the end zone, you actually win the day as well. So it's fine margins. You can if and but over Traylon Burks. I don't think it should. It's not on you to. It doesn't fall on your shoulders for that to cost you the win. As you say, you look squarely at Alvin Kamara and really the Saints, because it's just such a dysfunctional offense. I don't understand what they're going for, really. I don't. No. It's so bizarre with their injury situation where they've had multiple guys been out for long periods of time, but have chosen not to put them on IR, like Lattimore and Thomas earlier in the season. Jameis is Schroding as quarterback. Is he healthy or is he not? Nobody knows, but he's active as a backup, so he must be. So why wouldn't you play? Because he's giving you more than Andy Dalton's going to give you, and it's just a car crash. Unfortunately, Alvin Kamara's in the passenger seat for that. But as you say, Viv's team, yeah, pretty solid day. As far as the spread offense goes, with his typically. Okay, I think we are back. Let's hope we get Chris back in a second. Hello, are you there, Chris?
I'm here now. Hello.
Oh, I have no idea what happened there. That my computer, I think, lost connection, even though it didn't. But that's fine. We clearly had enough of the Dream Team versus Forge Flyers, so we'll go on to the next game. And yeah, I did pick Viv, just by the way, in case you didn't hear that part. So we'll go on to the next game where we now dip into the Winchester Division. Vickers Circle took on Tom's Tyrants for a true win or go home. The playoffs did start in week 12 for these two teams, because both with 2 wins and 2 games behind in the division, and the 2 leaders of the division playing each other. It was an absolute must-win to stay up in the division, and neither of these teams have a chance at the points wildcard either. So yeah, very much win or go home. Tom's Tyrants win they did, and they actually had a mightily impressive performance in them as well. 3rd highest score on the week, 117 points. 68 points looking down the lineups for Tom's Tyrants. Tom Brady, he got 22. Miles Sanders erupted for 28. Jonathan Taylor got 16. Nick Folk got 15. And Chiefs got 18 points. So special teams coming up big as well. And we're to that nice 117, which must be a season high for Tom's Tyrants, I would think. On the other side of the board for Vickers Circle, Ross's team, Dak Prescott got 18 points. Cannot get that quarterback stream right on each given week. Latavius Murray got 10 points. David Montgomery got 11. No other players over 10 points there. So Vickers Circle is 2-10. They're eliminated, losing 6 games on that tune. Tom's Tyrants, they win 1. They move to 3-9 and stay alive for another week. But they are very much still in win or go home mode. The history of this matchup all time, Tom's Tyrants is 7-6 against Russell's team. So now they take the lead in the series. Who knew Tom's team had this in them, Chris?
I don't think Miles Sanders knew he had that. That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, people laugh at Miles Sanders, but it's 28 points this year. He showed them who's boss. Yeah, look, it's a good result here for his running back room. Sanders and Taylor, obviously, really steamrolling their way through the opposition here. But yeah, Brady, rolling back the years, 22 points, not too bad. And we've got a shout out to Nick Folk, the Chief D. Yeah, so that's a big score. So I think all round, that's it. There's not a great deal. His receivers, obviously, not anything to shout about really. But similarly, who needs them when you've got other people propping them up like that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, 117 points, great score this time of the year, exactly what you need, especially when somehow you're still in a division hunt.
Yeah, I mean, Tom's come back from, I think, 2-6 before. He came back from 0-5, coming back from 2-9.
I'm not going to call this an epic comeback when you see the division as it is, and we'll obviously see what that is later. But I mean, yeah, fair enough. That's it. That is a wonderful score from less wonderful players this time of the year. At the same time, talking about less wonderful players, Ross's team, no touchdowns on the day. I mean, there's some decent yardage there, but aside from that, there's really not a lot to write home about, is there? And this is just, there's a lot of guys on poor offenses at the wrong time of the year. Guys who are being shaved out of the offense. Kirk Cousins on the bench there to win 27 points. I mean, he could have been another 10, but it wouldn't have masked the problems. He still would have lost by 40. So, yeah, it's since Cooper Kupp went down and without lacking a real playmaker, it's far from an ideal solution for Ross. As you say, he's now well and truly out of it. But then again, only winning 2 games all year and losing 10. Should you really be in a playoff race? I don't think so. So, yeah, better luck next year on the auto draft there, Ross. Hopefully draft a better team.
Indeed, yeah. Injuries haven't been kind to Ross as well, for what it's worth. But to be fair, injuries have also been very kind to Ross in previous years, namely one in particular. So,
yes,
yeah, as we know in fantasy, positive and negative regression is a term you all know quite well, depending how much you read and listen to. But yeah, that's definitely the case for what's happening to Ross's team here. Yeah, not a great day, like you said. Yeah, can't get the quarterback right. Just not great players, not scoring touchdowns necessarily in a funk. For Tom's team, yeah, it's bizarre because obviously Tom's team has kind of been in a funk all season long, but seemingly maybe coming out of it now. Like Jonathan Taylor, healthy at last, being used as the bell cow that he is. Really helps. Playing guys like Van Jefferson, yeah, some crazy things. So we'll see how far Tom can take it, because he does need to win out, and he also needs a little bit of help to even still have a chance at the playoffs, but at least stays alive for another week. Meanwhile, we already know one team that's currently impaled by the fork, because you did that a couple of weeks ago on Ross's team, Chris. Absolutely right to do so as well. So we'll go to the last game of the week, which featured the 2 division leaders in the Winchester division. Much like the Portsmouth division, Gridiron Gang versus Bedednators, Pakistan took on UR Gold in a less hyped up match, I guess you could say, when both of these teams had 4 wins coming in, but someone's got to win this division, and they both were tied for the lead at 4-7. And Pakistan, they take the lead in the division as they won this one, 107 to 83 points, winning 2 on the trot now, dropping UR Gold to 2 losses on the trot. Looking down the lineups, Pakistan, Justin Herbert, he's getting into fine form at the right time, 35 points there for Pakistan. Justin Jefferson, he had a great day on Thanksgiving too, 20 points, as did Ezekiel Elliott with 16, and that was those big performances plus some other help got them where they needed to get with the 107 points. On the other side of the board for UR Gold, Marcus Mariota, the stream again, he only got 16 points on the day, so not quite as successful as has been done in seasons past. Michael Pittman got 12, Aaron Jones got 16, Jamal Williams got 11, and the Jets got 13. Again, 83 points, not the worst on the day, but obviously couldn't win this one. So the history of this matchup all time, Pakistan are now 3-7 all time against UR Gold. So yeah, as I said earlier, definitely the week of the underdog. But despite the Ixan pick'em going wrong, I went 5-1 in the week because I picked Tom Sirens and Pakistan to win in the Winchester game. So Pakistan looked like it was slipping away. Maybe it's coming back to them again, Chris.
Well, all I can say is that he has his some of these big names coming through at just the right time for him. Justin never picked exactly the right time to have a big day. Justin Jefferson, as we know, absolutely brilliant player and has been all year for Pat, and Zeke he's always going to get the volume. Aside from that, really not a great deal else there. But you've got Devontae and Cordell Patterson. You've certainly got some way of week in, week out and contributing as well. So I think 107 is a fantastic result this time of the year. Must-win game for Pat. So finally getting across the line. He puts himself in the driving seat. He really does for the division.
Definitely. Who would have guessed the two teams in the Winchester division score over 100 points? No less. You probably didn't get a chance to listen to the pod last week when you were in Dublin, but I firstly locked Tom's team to win. Then I changed my lock to Pat's team. I was locking both Winchester division games, and I got them both right. So
yeah, that's it. And it's just the right time. I mean, you can see why. I think that some difficult matchups in there, shall we say, but the ones that counted worked. On the other side, I mean, we've said this all year. The difference between these two teams this week was the quarterback again. There was no way of him OGB getting anywhere near that quarterback scoring, so that's quite high. But aside from that, skill positions are much better, I would say, in the sense that Pittman scored good points, Jones scored good points, Williams scored good points. Dalvin Cook not good points in the sense. It's a bit of a problem there, but he has to contribute other parts of the year. And the Jets D doing well as well. But that 20-ish points that takes you to the same level as Pat, it's all on the quarterback. So yeah, just another one of those things that have plagued this team all year. But well done for not playing the Bears D against the Jets. Do that, going completely the other way. And it paying dividends, so I can commend you for that.
Absolutely, I think the Bears defense might actually even be off his team now. I can't remember what the waiver move was.
I can't believe that. That isn't surely the case.
Let's dip into his team because we're done with this game. So let's see. You Are Gold. Here we go. Yes, the Bears are gone. They are no longer on You Are Gold's roster. So
all I can say, he must have spoken to Dave Henderson about the Dolphins D. Let's see, how hard is it after all this time to then bin the Dolphins D and then they go and score 24 points? He was onto something, man. As I say, he's been derided on this podcast this whole year, and yet that's what they go and do. So watch the Bears D go for 25 this week. Yeah,
quite possibly. The bye week was the first thing to put the nail in the coffin, but he did not hold on to them. He did not make a bones of getting them back because I snuckily added the Dolphins D while they were on their bye week. So yes, as you say, could have done it. So watch out, whoever's playing against the Bears defense, if anyone's playing against the Bears defense this week. So there are some of the games. So yeah, I went 5-1 overall on the pick'em and got the lock this week. That brings me to 56-40 all time on the pick'em and above 500 again on the locks 9 and 8. We will go to the league news now. So, as I said, there were a fair amount of injuries last week, but none particularly major. The only one I have circled here is Najee Harris, because it's very vague what has happened to him. It was reported as an abdominal injury. Someone threw about it could be a hernia. I was just checking some injury reports earlier, and it's now listed as an oblique, so I don't know what's going on with that dude. Also, nobody seems to know exactly how long he will miss. Some people said, it could be back this week. He's not been practicing yet, so I would very much doubt that, but who knows how long this injury could actually end up being, Chris. Just at the time when the Boltons were maybe turning a bit of a corner, and he was turning a bit of a corner as well, because he had a slow start, probably the bust of the first round at least, maybe not the whole draft, that might be a bit harsh, but not ideal timing for the Boltons, really, Chris.
Not at all, Sam. But we know this team's got enough in them, but yeah, I would say it's far from ideal timing. It's skeptical as to whether he'd make the playoffs anyway, but yeah, I think there's certainly less of a chance without one of his top players, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then transaction-wise, again, a very quiet week. We only had 2 waiver claims this week, which I was stunned to see waking up on Wednesday morning. And so I've only highlighted one of those. There's been a few free agent ads. So bare necessities, they added Chase Claypool for Darnell Mooney. Did not make the key injury section because I did not cast Darnell Mooney as a key player. So $23 might add spent on Chase Claypool. What do you make of that addition, Chris?
I mean, Chase Claypool did absolutely nothing for me, so yeah, I had high hopes too. He's not got a defined role in the offense. It's a very weird one because they've obviously gone big on the drafts. They've been on picks for Claypool, but yeah, you'd like to think that for fantasy purposes he'd be absolutely brilliant, but I don't know. I just don't see it. Maybe stashed him for a playoff run. If they can get into the bye, sort his role out and come back and be better, but I don't know. They're certainly a run-first offense and they don't throw a lot, so yeah, it could be a bit of a fan move, that one.
Yeah, no, I agree. He was on my waiver queue just as a why not with basically free roster space, but I mean $23 is one thing. I agree. It's not going to pay that off because even if he does resume that Darnell Mooney role, Darnell Mooney was like mildly usable. He'd been better of late, where obviously Justin Fields decided to play better. But like you say, very run-heavy team, low volume pass offense. Not only low volume, but also quite spread across the various receivers they have there. So probably not going to be a massive impact there. So we'll go to the standing stats and milestones now. So if we start off with the standings, Southampton division. So Ixan, despite the loss, do still lead the division and the league as the number 1 seed with that 10-2 record. But they do have bucking the trend hot on their heels now, despite leading all season long. Could we see bucking the trend potentially overtake Ixan at 9-3 right behind them? Bare Necessities there, 8-4, hot on the heels of bucking the trend themselves as well in the wildcard race, and they do have the superior points. And then Napolitans at the bottom there, 5-7 again. Points wise, pretty good, but as you kind of mentioned, they have conceded the most points in the league so far this year. In the Portsmouth division, Gridiron Gang on top now after they defeat Bedednators, so they go to 8-4. Highest scoring team in the league. Bedednators right behind them on 7-5. Of course, I think they're still the second highest scoring team in the league, one of only 2 teams to go over 1,200 points so far. Forge Flyers now at 6-6, with the Dream Team right behind them at 5-7, and then the Winchester division. Pakistan leading that one up now at 5-7 as well. So they could still get to 0.500. It would be great to see a division team not have a losing division winning team to not have a losing record. Pat's got a chance to do it. UR Gold at 4-8 right behind them, but their points is far, far worse. So really they have to leapfrog Pakistan for a chance to win the division and get to the playoffs now. Tom's Tyrants at 3-9, still mathematically alive in the division, but it would take a lot with Pakistan's win to be able to change that now, and then Ross's team at 2-10 there at the bottom. The lower seeded team in the league now. So if the playoffs started today, we would have Ixan, Gridiron Gang and Pakistan through to the playoffs by way of winning the division. You would then have bucking the trend as the traditional wildcard, and then Bedetnators would be the points forward wildcard. So that's what it looks like today. In the breakdown category, Gridiron Gang returns to the top here with an 11-0 week, a week after having a 10-1 week, so 94-38. To go to the season. They did play Bedetnators, who despite getting 8 points, which actually isn't typically a bad score across all the weeks this season, they would have got 1-10 last week with that 8 points, so they fall a bit behind now. And indeed, Ixan as well and Ben Assisties, pretty much close to them. And then you have the middle ground that you would expect. Then you get to the bottom side of this. Your goal, despite being a game behind the division, 34-98 so far. The team below them in the division is above them in the breakdown at 42-90, so they've separated a bit there. And Pakistan obviously just behind 500 there, but at least winning their division now as well. Go to the coach ranking. Dream Team, Forge Flyers, Ben and Cesties still at the top of this one. The only 3 teams to remain under 100 points left on their bench versus their optimal lineup through since the start of the season. Then you have the middle ground. Then we get to the bottom once again 3 Winchester division teams rounding out the bottom here, with Tom's Tyrants being the very most bottom, and then Pakistan right behind them. Tom's Tyrants has left nearly 200 points on their bench through 12 weeks of the season, so definitely going to be ruining some of those, certainly where points could potentially come into their playoff chances now as well. I was just going to look back, if you go on the matchup recaps when you go on desktop or anything, you can see some interesting stats along the side when you scroll down, so I just happened to notice some of those earlier, and they seem a little bit fun, so we'll just go through those. So Napolitans has now beaten their projected score 5 weeks in a row. That's actually pretty crazy if you think about it.
Yeah.
What else have we got? So the Dream Team won last week despite not starting a top 30 running back. Again, interesting, sure. So You Are Gold continues to find the pundits and has beaten their projected score 3 weeks in a row. My question there, how low was his projection each of these weeks?
Yeah, exactly.
Teams have won 54% of the time when they throw no picks in a week. Okay. And they also win 72.7% of the time when they have the league's highest scoring running back. Well, they start the league's highest scoring running back, which again makes sense. Forge Flies, you have now fallen short of your predicted score 4 weeks in a row. And Bedadnators has now decreased their score in each of the past 4 weeks. So if that basically means obviously their score has gone down as the weeks have gone on, which isn't what you want when you're fighting for a playoff spot.
No.
We'll go to the milestones now. Only one that I picked out that was quite notable and very poetic. Myself and my dad entered the 200 appearance club at the exact same time, which means all of the founding teams now that are obviously still in the league have reached 200 appearances. We will go to Debate Corner now, the bit you've obviously been eagerly waiting for. To do that, we obviously need John to help us get in there. John, can you please help us out?
Order.
Thank you, John. So yeah, it's no surprises what's coming to Debate Corner today. Stick a fork in them. They done. Which teams are we putting the fork into? It's week 12. It's probably a bit later than we would normally start forking teams, but obviously with the new super playoff format, it's obviously a bit harder to do it earlier. We obviously already have got Ross's team forked, rightly so. Let's start from the bottom. So let's start with the Winchester division, Chris. I think despite Tom's Tyrants win, they are basically 100 points behind Pat. They would need to win out. I think they have a game against Pat, but they would also need Pat to lose, and obviously You Are Gold to lose twice as well. I think we can probably safely fork Tom, unfortunately.
I think he can. I think Pat's team is just better, and Tom's Tyrants is doing better of recent, but I do think that Pat overall has got more playmakers. So yeah, fork the Tyrants. We're obviously forks Ross's team already. Can't fork You Are Gold. They've still got.
Well, I was just going to say this. So, do we really think You Are Gold can win 2 games? Because to make the playoffs, they have to win 2 games. And if Pat basically wins 1, they are 135 points behind Patterson. They play. So one game they play Ross's team, and that's the last week of the season. This week they play. Bucking the Trend, who are in white hot form. I think we can probably fork You Are Gold as well.
I am not going to fork You.
Okay.
I am going to keep them in the hunt because you know why? Strange things happen. I have played You Are Gold before in challenging playoff defining games before the last day of the season. And you know what he's done? He beat me every time. Mike should be very worried this week, but I know that they're in good form. But there's still a lot to play for, and they've still got to play Ross's team. So I'm not saying that's a given win, but there's a high chance of that right now. Bearing in mind the predicament Ross is in. So yeah, I've got something. I will caveat that and say, obviously, if this week Pat gets a positive result and You Are Gold does not get a positive result, then knives are out.
Let's put a spoon on You Are Gold for now. They're not quite forked. They've got the spoon on them. So Patterson definitely not getting the fork. They're still live. The Dream Team. So despite being 5-7, no chance of the division, no chance of the wildcard spot. In terms of points, they're 100 points behind Bedadnators, which is the points forward. So I can see Chris gesturing if you're watching on the video there. You want to fork the Dream Team here?
The Dream Team being a fork for me, Nath. Yes, 5 wins ain't enough in that division. They're too far behind. I think in the points forward against any of the teams that are around them, whether that be Bedadnators or yourself, or indeed Bucking the Trend or Ben Necessities in the Southampton division. So yeah, I'm afraid it's one that's been feisty this year, but just the record speaks for itself, I'm afraid.
Sure. I hate to fork a fellow podcast host, but I'm afraid it's circling you as well, Chris.
It's time, mate. It's time. I said absolutely. Get rid of me. I said that is not the objective this year, as I keep saying. 6-6 is exactly where we want to be. I want to be at 7-7 come the end of the year. 500 is good. I don't want to be in the playoff hunt. I don't need that this year. I don't want that. I don't want to win. I don't want any of the hassle that comes with it. Please, fork me now so I don't have to. going on past next week. Too much.
The fork is safely inserted. You can focus on the 500. That's okay.
Good.
Obviously, Gridiron Gang Bedetta is definitely nowhere near the fork. We go on to the Southampton division then. Napolitans, similar boat, but actually slightly worse really than the Dream Team. They have 37 less points than the Dream Team. So by that decree, and the same record by the way, it would seem to suggest that we need to fork Napolitans as well.
I'm afraid so. I think again, Napolitans. I'd love to see a playoff between the Napolitans and the Dream Team. So as the feistiest team that's not going to make the playoffs. So, but at the same time, that's it. Yes, I'm afraid so. Again, not enough wins in that division. Those three above them are absolute powerhouses. 2 out of 3 of them are going to be in the playoffs. So yeah, unfortunately, it's better luck next year. But again, another good year I think for Dave Henderson. He's going to be. Hopefully, he can get towards 500 before the end of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned earlier, has been conceded on a lot. It's not been for the lack of the team. Yeah,
absolute shat on from a great height.
And then obviously we're not forking Ben Necessity's bucking the trend or Xan because it's all to play for there. But yeah, I mean, you say 2 of these teams. There is a potential that only one of these teams could make the playoffs still, depending what happens elsewhere. A slim chance, but could happen. So if you're keeping count, I believe that is we have forked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 playoff teams. Is that right? So we forked Ross's team, Tom's team. You did not want to fork Ollie, so I will not shove. He has been spooned. Dream Team and Forge Flyers are forked, and then Napolitans. Oh, so we've only forked 5 teams. Then is that right? I think
it's only 5. It's that you are golden. May well get forked come Sunday, but till then, I still have faith in the fantasy football gods that things are going to go very, very weird. I think this week for Mike and you are gold. I just have this feeling.
Well, let's all keep our eyes peeled for that because that would be quite the spectacle. Speaking of this week and Sunday, the Week 13 preview, the penultimate week of the LOC regular season. Obviously, we cannot definitively say who will make playoffs for this week. With a win, Ixan would be in the playoffs for sure, but that I think is the only one in terms of that side. So yeah, we'll take a look at the matchups on the docket. We have Gridiron Gang against Napolitans, Pakistan against Bare Necessities. So that's obviously 2 playoff teams. And the Gridiron Gang Napolitans, by the way, is the Hutamaki Bowl, as Dave did used to work for Hutamaki as well. But Detonators versus Ixan, again 2 playoff hopefuls. You Are Gold against Bucking the Trend, again another 2 playoff hopefuls. Vickers Circle against Forge Flies. And then the Dream Team against Tom's Tyrants, which is a Corona Bowl 6 rematch, the Corona Bowl in 2014. Where do you want to go with the marquee matchup this week, Chris?
I said this week, Nathan. I think there's only one place that we can go. I think it's the one matchup that's got any sort of direct playoff relevance, and that is Detonators versus Ixan. That
was the one I was highlighting to cut and paste in my notes file, so we are on the same wavelength. So here we go. Well, the marquee matchup for Week 13, Detonators against Ixan. The 7-5 Detonators take on the 10-2 league leading Ixan. Both of these teams currently seeded for the playoffs. Obviously Ixan by way of division, Detonators by way of points forward wildcard. But hang on a minute, both these teams are coming off of losses. Detonators could do 2 on the trot if they lose this one to Ixan. Meanwhile, Ixan will do something they've not done this season and lose 2 on the trot for the first time if they lost. The projections do say it's going to go the way of Ixan though, 96 to 90 points. So let's take a look at the lineup, see what's going on. So for Ixan, Tyler Lockett comes into the lineup, dropping James Conner to the bench, meaning Ixan is fielding the 20 personnel this week. 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for the Detonators, Gino Smith remains as the starter for now. In terms of lineup changes, Chris Olave returns to the lineup. Isaiah Pacheco comes in, and so does Kyron Williams. Lots of change there for the Detonators. Well, when you see DeAndre Hopkins on a bye going to the bench, the potentially injured Travis Etienne and Michael Carter as well dropping to the bench. That's the reason why they are fielding 30 personnel this week. 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, but Detonators are 7-8 against Ixan, so it's a close one. Chris, where do you think this matchup's going to go?
Yeah, this is the battle of the reserves versus the injured players here. I mean, this is wild, and here's why it's wild, because I think though McCaffrey will play, Debo is questionable.
Iffy. Yeah.
And Antonio Gibson is extremely questionable.
Well, this is the bizarre thing with Gibson. So he was limited yesterday, I think, with a quad or a hamstring or something of that nature. Missed today, did not practice with the foot, so who knows what's going on there.
Yeah, this is exactly that. Now, no one really knows, but the problem that they have here is Melvin Gordon has just signed for Kansas City, which is again a bit of an under the radar weird. But he can go and join that unbelievable committee of like 5 of them that don't do anything. Zay Jones has been brought in again. He's struggling with injury, and then you've got Cole Kmet down there, who is probably good for a touchdown a game. He certainly wasn't good for a touchdown a game a couple of weeks ago. But again, it's a tough matchup against Green Bay. So look, there's not a lot behind that starting lineup for Ben, and you have to then look at it and go, well, if it's Mahomes, Lockett, a bit of Melvin Gordon possibly, Kmet maybe a bit of Zay Jones, and a banged up Christian McCaffrey with Tucker and the Ravens D. That's it. It's so hot on that. But on the other side, I'm feeling a bit more, but it's Pacheco and Kyron Williams, particularly Kyron Williams. Is it? Are we really going to expect some serious fancy output from a guy like that? I know it's going to be he's going to be the only guy in that back for this weekend because Akers is out injured, but the quarterback can run. They're in a bit of a rut. They're going to be behind. I mean, Seattle playing well. I don't know, man. He's going to have to lean on Derrick Henry. He's playing Philly. Tough place to go.
I was just going to say on that one as well, they've got Jordan Davis should be coming back from IR, and he was absolutely destroying the run game earlier in the season. Obviously, the Eagles' run game hasn't been the same since. And Henry has sneakily been quite inefficient of late.
Yeah, I see. This is the inefficiency of the offense, really, is that they can't get a great deal going. They've got not a lot of passing game. They have to rely on him. They're just going to stack the box and hope he doesn't run through them. And I think that's what a lot of teams seem to be doing. Cincinnati played that last year. They did that in the playoffs. They did that last week, and they just stifled them. Chris Love is playing Tampa, and Tampa's been better of late, but still, the New Orleans offense we talked about earlier on is absolute trash bag. CeeDee Lamb's playing at home. That's it. He's going to get plenty of targets. I think that's a good matchup for him.
Wow, he's going to be covered by Stephon Gilmore, who's, even at age 32, is having a bit of a renaissance.
Yeah, all right then. But they absolutely rinsed by Pittsburgh last week against, let's just also ran wide receiver. So I'm not having any of that. And Gino, Gino's been pretty consistent. Look at that, 23 points, 24 points, 23. You know what you're going to get from him.
And Aaron Donald ain't playing either, so that's one less thing to worry about.
No, that's it. But that's it. I still think that LA Rams D. If it's still got Jalen Ramsey in it, it's still going to be there. It's still going to be taken. He's still going to be picking. I don't care if he's going to get sacked. It's not about that in fantasy football. It's how many times you get picked. Gino threw some stupid picks of the weekend. If anyone saw it, so Christ. So, anyways. The point of the fact of the matter is that Ollie's have to lean on Gino, CeeDee Lamb, and the Cowboys D, and Derrick Henry, and what Derrick Henry can salvage from that offense, and just hope that Pacheco, hope that Kyron Williams, and hope that Chris Olave somehow be able to get in. Whilst Ben, he's just hoping that he can field a team, and then that's why to win this game.
So, you're picking Bedadnadis, was that what you're picking? Yeah. I'm picking Bedadnadis as well. Sort of a similar, slightly different reason to you, I should say. I'm actually going to make the assumption that I think Fields plays. He practiced in full today. He should ruin that Packers defense if he plays like he has been playing. I'm going to assume that Travis Etienne is going to be playing because it sounds pretty promising, and that probably drops let's say Kyron Williams to the bench. Isaiah Pacheco, by the way, so I think Jerick McKinnon for the Chiefs, he is not practicing with a hamstring injury, so Pacheco could be the firm lead back of the game that week as well. So I think there's going to be a few changes for Ollie's team between now and Sunday, and as you say, Iksan is just reeling with the injuries at the moment, not quite at full strength. We've seen San Fran have not had a willingness to shoulder the load of McCaffrey for good reason, because they want him healthy for when it matters. And even though Elijah Mitchell unfortunately went down for you, Chris, with injury last week, I don't see that changing, especially when he's already kind of nicked up himself. And as you say, the options on the bench aren't entirely inspiring there. I do like the Zay Jones ad, though, by the way, if that Jags offense is clicking. But yeah, no, I'm going with Ollie this week as well. So yeah, that maybe puts Ben's playoff spot in jeopardy, potentially. Who knows? So we'll go on to the next game then, which is You Are Gold against Bucking the Trend. Another two playoff hurdles in slightly different ways. Bucking the Trend carrying a 4-game win streak, and the current owner of the Wildcard spot take on Your Gold, who are a game behind in the division, but realistically need to win out to make it, despite coming off of a 2-game slide at 4-8. They are not projected to get a win here though. Bucking the Trend have that honour at 95-88. Looking down the lineup for Bucking the Trend, Christian Watson comes into the lineup in favour of Jeff Wilson. No other changes there, so they're going with the 20 personnel this week, 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for You Are Gold, I think Brandon Cooks comes into the lineup, dropping...
It was Tyler Boyd, I think.
Tyler Boyd to the bench, thank you, Chris. So he is going, and that has changed since earlier as well, because he had Richie James in at one point, which I could not believe my eyes. He is going with the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, Wishbone, and 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, You Are Gold is 1-2 against Bucking the Trend. And just before you get into this game, Chris, I will just circle back and cover off those injuries. We did mention them pretty formally, but just, and as we speak, Ollie is actually put Travis Etienne. Is he listening into his lineup? He should play. He just kind of had a thing with the surgically repaired foot from the Liz Frank last year, but yeah, apparently he was cleared to go in the game and could have come back in. It was just precautionary, so he should play. I don't think Carter's going to play with a low ankle sprain. Zay Jones, limited with the chest injury, he's going to play, I think. Antonio Gibson, truly questionable at the moment, no idea. The OC did say he should be able to play by Sunday, but who knows at this point. As you say, Chris, Debo probably not going to play, but McCaffrey should play. So enough of that. Over to you, Chris. Is Bucking the Trend going to waltz through your gold here, or are they going to encounter some turbulence?
I think there's some weird stuff going to happen in this game. That's it. There's just something about this game that I think is just the writing's possibly on the wall a little bit here, because look what you have for Bucking the Trend. Yes, they've got to go. Tua and the Dolphins will go all the way across the country and play San Francisco. San Francisco's defense is in great form at the moment. Yes, the Dolphins' offense has been great this year, but as we've seen, it's strange to go cross country like that. Keenan Allen playing, the Chargers playing Vegas. I like it. Sim Brown playing the Jacksonville D. That's it. Detroit have been misfiring. I just don't know. Sim Brown and that offense went out really well. It was a big week last week against the Bills, but yeah, they seem to find games like that difficult, or at least they get into a track meet. That's it. Barkley against the Commanders. That's it. Same early season, absolute form. Come off the bye, big week. Not against Detroit. Not so good against Dallas. Say scored a touchdown. Play the Commanders. Yeah, that's it. They're no slouches.
Oh, their run D has been great of late, and they might even get Chase Young back in this one as well.
Exactly that. So yeah, he's a big dude. So yeah, Josh Jacobs has tweaked his calf, so maybe we'll see a lot of him. Maybe we won't. Who knows? And Christian Watson, well, I'm sorry, but he might be good going forward, but he's had some 3 big weeks. But play the Bears away.
He's been very efficient because he's not actually had a lot of targets and things. He's just been super, which can happen. It obviously happened with AJ Brown when he was in Tennessee. But yeah, like you say, especially with Rodgers dealing with an injury now as well. It's yeah. And who's that on the other side of the board? And where do the Bears absolutely suck? The run game.
Well, quite. So yes, that's it. I mean, they look to the other side, and there's some streaky guys, but Jared Goff's playing Jacksonville. I know that they've been difficult recently, but I don't know. If this is one game to turn it around, then maybe that's it. They just don't. I don't know. You can't get too excited about a game like that. It's just 2 teams that perennially suck over time. But Jacksonville's defense is better than one might think. Brandon Cooks is a little bit injured, but if you bring in a Tyler Boyd or a Hawkinson, I don't think that's a massive difference, to be quite honest.
I would argue even a mild upgrade. Cooks has been... He's effectively droppable at this point. That's how bad he's been this year.
Yeah, that's it. And it's all quarterback play. That's pretty Hawkinson, and he's playing the Jets at home. I think that's to me sounds like points. Pittman's going to be in Dallas. They're going to be throwing, but
he's going to get the Trayvon Diggs treatment.
He certainly is. Dalvin Cook, been a bit of an up and down season for him in the last couple of weeks, but we know what he's capable of. Same with Aaron Jones, bit banged up. Surely, if Aaron Rodgers is a little bit injured, then they're going to rely on that run game because they're good. And Jamal Williams, well, that's it. Due to the untimely death of DeAndre Swift's fantasy hopes mid-season, that's it. He's definitely been the beneficiary of that. So I'd like to see some good points there. Jets play Minnesota. That's it. Not going to do that. They're playing Kirk Cousins in Kirk Cousins land at 6 o'clock. You know what's going to happen. They're going to get burned. Go with someone else. Go find someone else. But I think when you take that all into account, Mike's team is very good, and you can't knock the fact that over the last few weeks, there's been some big numbers in there. But you are gold. I don't know. With those 3 running backs, you can never really rule them out, especially if Goff is okay on the day, and Pittman puts up an okay number. And they obviously have a credible second receiver. So I think URL could be punchy, but bucking the trend should win this game.
Yeah, I'm going with bucking the trend as well. Like you said, I could absolutely see a decent day from URL just because, as you say, that engine room is, it's the NFC North powerhouse. Jamal Williams, I think when he scores a touchdown, he typically doubles his money, or whenever he's scoring, he's typically having a multi-touchdown game. That's obviously something to factor. Is the quarterback going to perform? That's usually the big thing for your goals, because that is what's let him down time after time this season. And as you say, with the Jets defense as well. I don't know, maybe the Jets is a pretty good unit. We'll see. I know it's 6 o'clock and in Minnesota, but it might not be all doom and gloom. For bucking the trend, I completely agree with some of your points. Obviously, Tua's got his hardest matchup of the season going across the other side of the country. Barkley has been a little bit washed lately. Is Jacobs healthy? I don't know. There is a few boat race games here, though. That Chargers-Raiders game should be a boat race. To be fair, the Jags versus Detroit could become a boat race. And maybe even Green Bay against Chicago as well. So, like you say, I'm going to go bucking the trend as well. Just on the form of the two teams across the season, we obviously know who is better there. Injury-wise, Brandon Cooks, he's questionable, but I think he should play. Obviously, he did miss some time, but he should be back. Aaron Jones, again, he's a bit nicked up, but he should play in this one. Richie James also, but should play. And I think I saw Darius saying, I don't know if he was injured or ill earlier as well, so that could play into that. Aaron Rodgers, he obviously left the game with a rib injury last week, but sounds positive, and he'll probably play this week. And if they don't win, there's talk that he might just get shut down for the season, because he's obviously been playing through a broken thumb as well. Pretty hard for a quarterback. And yeah, as you said, Chris, as well, Josh Jacobs dealing with a calf injury. That popped up on Friday, he played, and then, I don't know, it's kind of come up again. Really bizarre, but yeah, it's definitely one to watch for Mike. We'll go on to our next game then now, which doesn't really have any playoff hopes, but it's one team's quest for 500. It certainly does. It's Vickers Circle against Forge Flies. Two teams with a combined losing streak of 10 games. Vickers Circle with 6 of those 10, and Forge Flies with the other 4. Face off here for some pride at the end of the season. So Forge Flies 6-6, hovering at the 500 right now. Vickers Circle 2-10, far adrift, just wanting to avoid the bottom spot. Projections are eerily close as well, 86.99 to 86.69 in favour of Forge Flies. Looking down the lineup, so for Forge Flies, Trevor Lawrence comes into the starting lineup with Kyler Murray on bye. Who else has shifted around? Drake London comes in favour of... is the player even on your team anymore, Chris?
He's not now, no. Cam Akers is dropped.
Yes, good shout. So you are fielding the 20 personnel this week, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Vickers Circle, they're sticking with Dak this week, for now anyway. And then in terms of other lineup changes, I don't think they have made any changes. So they're still fielding the 21 personnel, 2 running backs, a tight end, and 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, Forge Flies are 7-4 against Ross's team. Chris, I think one more win and you have guaranteed yourself 500. So it's it's good that you're facing the bottom opposition in the league.
I think it's ideal. It's definitely good timing. I think for Ross, he's got some difficult defensive matchups there. I mean, you look at that: Indy, Denver, LA, Baltimore, New England. The list goes on. So yeah, that's not ideal. I think there's guys that are out of form out of nick. Especially if Fields comes back, then Montgomery's not going to be used nearly as much as he would want. Murray's been leaned on recently as well, but again, we know about Denver's offensive struggles. Metcalf against LA, it's a difficult matchup no matter what. Andrews against Denver, same thing. And Dak has underwhelmed somewhat. I would be much, much, much more scared to see Kirk Cousins against the Jets not come in there. But, that's just me. It's not my team. On my side, however, I've gone for pure matchups alone. That's it. I think Detroit is the number one fantasy defense for quarterbacks. Pittsburgh's the number one fantasy defense for wide receivers, and Houston's the number one fantasy defense for running backs. So that bodes well. Let's hope Kamara comes back in and has a slightly less of a stinker, and that, as we said before, Waddle and the Miami Dolphins don't choke up against the San Francisco away. Look, let's be honest. There's one guy who knows San Francisco's scheme is Mike McDaniel, though, isn't it? So, Courtland Sutton, who is, well, I saw earlier on that Courtland Sutton across all his games scored the same amount as Kareem Hunt on my bench. Think of that and what you want. But look, I'm ever an optimist. One game he's going to come good. Let's just hope it's this one. Let's hope that Mike White turns less of Dan Marino and back into Mark Sanchez. Let's hope for a better week, because the last few weeks have been absolutely dreadful. And if I can get to over 90 points, I will be thrilled with him at the moment. So there you go. That's it. I've gone from optimist to pessimist, just like that. But yeah, Ross's team's got 2 wins for a reason. There's surely I've got to be able to win this one.
Yeah, no, I'm going with your team based on that. Like you say, whatever it is, the Saints always seem to be able to get themselves up to play the Bucks. You've got some good players behind that as well. Nick Chubb, Jalen Waddle. I love the Trevor Lawrence stream coming out of the bye. He's been good. He was boom or bust earlier in the season, but he's definitely got the boom games in him, and this could certainly be one. Like you say, Courtland Sutton, he might not be remarkable, but he's pretty steady as the leading option on that Denver offense, and the Baltimore defense is not great either. So there's a fair amount of things to like. Drake London's the only kind of wild card one that you've thrown in, but I don't hate that because he, on paper, should be a leading receiver. I don't know why Olamanda, whatever his name is, Zacchaeus, is getting loads of targets, but they should be going to Drake London. I know you once famously and heroically started Mike White, and it obviously paid big dividends, but people don't really talk about the game after that so much where he did shit the bed. So history repeating itself is a good thing to bet on with that, I think, as well. So and as you said, for Ross's team, we don't need to say anything. Latavius Murray is starting for his team, which isn't the worst fantasy option, to be fair, at this point, but I think it just punctuates a 32-year-old running back on one of the most putrid offenses in the NFL, being basically a mainstay of a fantasy team. So no, I'm going for your team as well. Injury-wise, both starting lineups have a clean bill of health. Traylon Burks, he popped up today. He did not practice. I think that might be an illness. It is an illness, so he should be good to go by Sunday. So we'll go on to another game then, which features again 2 teams that probably don't have a chance at the playoffs, but mathematically just about. The Dream Team against Tom's Tyrants. 5-7 Dream Team take on the 3-9 Tom's Tyrants. Dream Team alive in the points forward wildcard only. Meanwhile, Tom's Tyrants have a slim chance to win their division still. That is their only hope. They need to win to do it. The projections say they won't. 86-83 in favour of the Dream Team. Looking down the lineups, Jamar Chase comes back into the lineup for the Dream Team. I think Gus Edwards comes in as well, dropping DJ Moore to the bench. And also, was it MVS they played last week? I don't think it was. Somebody else. So they are playing the 20 personnel this week, 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Tom's Tyrants, Let's see here. They are unchanged at the moment, I think. So they are also going 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. Let's see here. Tom's Tyrants are... where is the Dream Team? 11-5 against the Dream Team. One of those obviously being that Coronavirus 6 that I mentioned earlier. Will history repeat itself? Chris, will Tom overcome the Dream Team as history says they normally do?
You think that, but I don't know. So, I mean, Brady and Evans are playing in a tough matchup for them, and we know how Evans gets on against Marshawn Lattimore, which is never.
Is Lattimore back? I know he's getting close.
You see, if he's not back for this game, I'll be amazed.
He'd come back just for my count.
Because he knows that he can put him on an island. I ain't joking. He's going back this week. So yeah, it says he could come back just about. So yeah, I'm expecting that to happen. I'm expecting that Evans to get shut down. So if that happens, then no, because I don't think that Van Jefferson and Ayuk can shoulder the charge there on the receiving core. And neither do I think that Miles Sanders and Jonathan Taylor can really take on that again. I mean, I know that Jonathan Taylor had a good week last week, but playing Pittsburgh and their defensive struggles this year, I don't think that Dallas will, especially playing them in Dallas as well, present them the same sort of opportunities. Same with Sanders, really. I know it's they're playing the Titans. But 28 points don't come around very often. That's what got him across the line. I know that he's been better than some weeks in recent weeks than some years rather. But yeah, he's touchdown dependent, extremely touchdown dependent, I think. So yeah, I'd be interested to see if we can get anywhere close. If we can get within 10% of his yards from last week.
Yeah, like you say, definitely an outlier.
Yeah, maybe half. I'll go with half. Let's give him a higher bar. What's on the other side? Viz back to his boom and bust best, I think. That KC Cincinnati game could be wild. I think if it's going to be a lot of offense there. Chase coming back in just at the right time as well. Stephon Diggs playing tonight against New England. Again, a weird one there. I think that say he's good for a touchdown most games at the moment. It seems if not, it's high yardage. So I think we've got a problem there. But it's down the bottom is the ones. It's the Gus Edwards, Paris Campbell, Tony Pollard trio, which is the thing that I just simply don't like. I think that Gus Edwards is more likely to get injured than score big points. I mean, last week he just ran in a 1-yard touchdown, so maybe that's also what he's good for. Not so good for Paris Campbell. I'm not too sure on that one, to be quite honest. If you're gonna, why play someone that underwhelming when you can play someone like MBS and just roll the dice bench? And Pollard, who let's be honest, when Zeke plays, he doesn't get nearly as much of a look in, but at the same time we know what he can do, and that's again a bit of a dice roll. I think Butker and the Bills did a reasonably good start as well, especially against New England tonight. So this here is a bit of a matchup dependent one, but I have to say I like Burrow, Diggs, Chase, bit of the Bills D, and Pollard better than anything that Tom's got to offer this week, I have to say.
Yeah, no, we are agreeing on everything thus far. I'm going with the Dream Team as well. I think Brady and Evans could have a better day than normal against the Saints, but that offense also hasn't been clicking. This is a key divisional game for what it's worth. Ayuk's been getting by with some touchdown dependency as well, kind of like you said with Miles Sanders. Jonathan Taylor's back, that's nice. And then Van Jefferson, God only knows what you're going to get from that. Chiefs against Cincinnati. There will be some team changes for Tom, I'd imagine. There's no good defenses out there really, though, at the moment. And he also doesn't really have much to go to on the bench, so he's kind of between a rock and a hard place, as you say, for Viv. He's got some stars that are pinning him up. I'm not going to name names. There are definitely some players on the waiver wire right now who have the opportunity at quite a bit of touches against some good matchups. I'm not going to give anybody a handout. You can go figure out yourself, but as you say, I don't know why you're playing Paris Campbell, and I said the same thing last week over some other options like that. So that's the only thing I don't like, but no, yeah, I still fancy the Dream Team to win in this one here. Injury-wise, Jamar Chase, he should be back this week from the hip injury that's kept him out for over a month now. Was close last week, so yeah, I'd very much expect him to play this week. Mike Williams, he's not practicing still. He will not play after re-aggravating the high ankle sprain. Jerry Judy's still not practicing either. He's not going to play. J.K. Dobbins is close to a return, but I wouldn't imagine it would be this week. Raheem Mostert, he's still quite iffy after he missed last week's game with the knee injury, and then no other injuries in this game as well. James Robinson was inactive, but he'll be active. Probably with Michael Carter sitting out as well. We'll go to the next game then, which is the Huhtamaki Bowl. It is Gridiron Gang against Neapolitans. Gridiron Gang at 8-4, leading the division with another win, puts them that much closer to punching their tickets to the playoffs. Meanwhile, Neapolitans just need to score points in a hurry. If they get a win along the way, that'll obviously be golden as well. They are not projected to do so, 97 to 96 points, so it's fairly close though. Let's take a look at the lineups for Gridiron Gang. Joe Mixon provisionally returns to the lineup, assuming he's back from his concussion, which kept him out last week, over Samaje Perine. Brian Robinson also comes into the lineup over Rashad White. So Gridiron Gang is going with a 31 personnel again, 3 running backs and a tight end and a wide receiver. On the other side of the board for Neapolitans, let's see here, I believe they are unchanged at the moment, so they are fielding the 20 personnel, 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, Gridiron Gang are, wow, it's a tight series actually, 1-1 between the two of them. Chris, can Neapolitans cause some late drama in the playoff race potentially here?
Yes, I think they really can. I think they're going to see a lot of games in this here with a lot of offense. I mean, you look down there, I think outside of the Philly game, we know how good Jalen Hurts is, especially at home. Tyreek, Higgins, Kirk, Stevenson, we'll forget about Harris for now because I don't think he's going to play. But all of those guys are in games which have positive game scripts for all the players there. Particularly, may I add, Christian Kirk and Ramondre Stevenson down there. I think a lot's going to go through Stevenson tonight. Playing the Bills. So let's say that Harris doesn't play well. That's not such a bad thing because Juju's might play, and again, that's going to be a game with, once again, a lot of offense. He's
also got Josh Palmer, especially with Mike Williams out, and as I said, it could be a boat race against a very soft defense. So there's that option too.
Indeed. So there's much to like over there. I think that there's some, Tyreek's been scary against certain defenses this year. So yeah, I'm interested to see how that goes. But look, I'm not going to completely rule the team out here, Dave, because there's. Josh Allen's against in a weird matchup tonight. I mean, I think I'd be a little bit scared of that Thursday night football against New England and away from home. But
you say that though. I mean, I agree. On paper, it could be quite scary, and you've got the Thursday night weirdness. Everyone remembers the game last year where Pats went to Buffalo. Mac Jones threw 3 balls, and they somehow won that game. But the weather was crazy. But then the 2 games after that, Allen absolutely trolled them. One of which was in Gillette as well. And then the other was obviously that humbling he gave them in the playoffs. So I agree, it could go either way though.
Yeah, no one's had more 30-point weeks than him this year, I swear. So so there's every chance, but he's going to put up good numbers, I think, just because he's got everything that you need. We know what Kelsey's about. Say he's good for 40 yards and a touchdown most weeks, or more, depending on how many touchdowns he gets in the red zone, I suppose. And then after that, it's like, well, Robinson's going to get all the touches this week. Gibson's out, great. Walker, we know how good he is. Mixon, though limited with concussion, it doesn't matter which one you play. You've got P. on the bench. So in a game, which we just said, Fashion's had plenty of offense. And once again, and I'm going to say the best till last, I see your tactic now. Excellent, shameless.
Again, I can't believe I said in the waiver only 2 waiver claims this week, and that was mine. And we all know I have absolutely no money left. So what was some of the other league doing? Because come on,
nearly they don't fancy the Browns B, obviously, but
It's not a great D. This is purely about the matchup, but the Miami D had a bit more to it last week. I agree, and this could have a weird effect to it being the Deshaun Watson return game in Houston as well. So,
yeah, I think Miles Garrett's going to sack Davis Mills loads of times, or whoever it is who plays this.
Kyle Allen.
Kyle Allen. There you go. Whoever the quarterback for the Texans is. So this could be a bit of a train wreck. I like that. I think that on balance, if tonight isn't really weird, I think that you're going to put up a good score. I think that Dave's going to put up a good score as well, though, and he's going to be feisty in this game. But this is the thing. I think that defensive score down the bottom there. Broncos have been good this year, but playing Baltimore, I don't necessarily like that. I know Baltimore have lost a lot of games they probably should have won this year, but put up good points all the time. Whilst I think that your team's established, you know what you're going to get from it. And yeah, that's it. But I wouldn't completely rule out Napoleons. But I can't bring myself to take them because they get beaten so often by big points.
Sure, yeah, no, and we do see that there are some teams each year that just have point magnet written all over them, and that's unfortunately been Dave's turn this year. I don't really have much more to add. Like you said, I think Dave's lined up matchup-wise play. He's actually got a really good roster of players, so yeah, he could absolutely put up the points. I don't necessarily hate the Broncos against the Baltimore Ravens as well, as you kind of mentioned. Baltimore have lost some games in spectacular fashion this year. On my team, it's pretty much set. I think the only thing that I could probably might possibly change about if Fournette was to be ruled out again, I might go with him over White over Robinson if Gibson did play. That's just one thing I've got to bear in mind. And then McLaurin as well. He's been a bit quiet of late because the Commanders have actually been able to control games, so he's still getting a good target share, but it's just been very low pass volume, and obviously as a result that kind of caps the upside. I have Lazard against the Bears as a potential option there as well, because as you said earlier, the Bears suck. I know Christian Watson's emerged, but he's still a fairly useful red zone weapon, but as it stands, the lineup is what it is. I'm actually going to lock Napolitans though this week. I'm going bold. I'm either going to win this and be extremely happy or get my lock, but I think you kind of said it. It could line up for an absolutely explosive week for him with the kind of plays he's got and the kind of matchups he's got. If everything goes right, as you said, it could start on Thursday night with Stevenson. Von Miller has been put on IR, so that Buffalo team is on defense. It's a bit creaky. And then I think what if Najee Harris doesn't play? If he does, he's got a plum matchup. If he doesn't, as I said, Josh Palmer would be my pick to come in above him. So no, lock in Napolitans this week for me. So we'll go on to the last game of the week then, which features Pakistan against Bare Necessities. Before I do that, actually, let's do the injuries. How silly of me. Joe Mixon questionable with a concussion. He is practicing though, so he's on his way to hopefully getting cleared. Daryl Satan, I think missed practice today with an illness, so he's questionable. Obviously, Najee Harris completely up in there with his abdominal injury. Back to Pakistan against Bare Necessities. The name of the game for these two teams: keep winning and you have a good chance at the playoffs. Pakistan a better chance than Bare Necessities as it stands because they are leading a division. Meanwhile, Bare Necessities is trying to keep up in both forms of the wildcard race with a very slim chance of still winning the division. Bare Necessities 8-4 with a 2-game win streak, and Pakistan 5-7 also with a 2-game win streak. This is mightily close production-wise, 91.89 to 91.35. So let's take a look at the lineups for Pakistan. I believe they are unchanged at the moment, so they are featuring the 20 personnel, 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. And then on the other side of the ball for Bare Necessities, let's see here, they are also unchanged, I think, so they are going with the 30 personnel, wishbone, 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, Bare Necessities are it's a level series again, 5-5 between the two of them. Well, it's big game on the line here for Pat, because if he wins, he's virtually, regardless of what happens in the other game, but he's virtually stamped his ticket to the playoffs and wins that division. Can he do it this week, Chris?
It gives him a good opportunity to do it. I think it's definitely a week where he can look positive here. I think that, again, we've talked about earlier on, Justin Herb's playing that game in Vegas, which could be absolutely ridiculous, as is Adams. I think you're going to hear Prince's "Let's Go Crazy" a lot with Justin Jefferson scoring plenty of touchdowns there. I think that's just a given when you play there against the Jets. The Jets are much improved, I'll give you, but Justin Jefferson is the man. Patson at home like it, Elliott at home like it. There's lots of like. I think any at this time of the year, any big game player who plays at home in a reasonably good offense is playing for something other than just wins, especially when there's playoff places on the line. Commanders versus the Giants. We know Daniel Jones gets sacked a lot. I just like Pat's team. I like Pat's team all year. I just can't quite understand why he's only got 5 wins, to be quite honest with those guys. Because there's some real talent in there. And you could bring Garrett Wilson in there over Smith, I think, maybe, especially if...
it's arguably a better play, I think.
Yeah.
I'm
not going to say you just got to roll what's hot. And
even George Kittle as well, you know.
Yeah. And then on the other side, again, Jackson's playing, say, Denver's D, who on paper is supposed to be stout, but fantasy-wise they haven't been over the last little while. But here's Lamar Jackson playing at home, and you can never rule him out. I think Godwin, as we talked earlier on, could be the beneficiary of the potential Marshall Lattimore effect once more against New Orleans. AJ Brown's been a stud. Eckler's been a stud. Both of those, especially that Chargers offense could well be rolling again this weekend. But say Singletary's New England and Pierce against in that Cleveland game. There's some weirdness there. I think he's going to say bad QB play for Pierce, and for Singletary, he's done well against some pretty average defenses over the last little while, but against New England, who very well knows, because we know how much better they are. And the 49ers D, well, that's it. Now, last week they scored 19 points, but they're playing against Miami, arguably the most vibrant offense in the NFL. So, I mean, not expecting to see...
That's a good adjective. I like that. You don't hear that description. Vibrant offense. It's good.
That's it. They certainly are. They're exciting to watch. So.
Oh, they are. I don't disagree with you.
The Dolphins these days. So 49ers playing them. That's it. Much more of a different matchup. For me, that's it. I think that Pat is extremely strong this week. Extremely strong. And I think that though Dave's team is extremely strong as well, I think that, say, if Pierce gets taken out of the game just due to poor QB play, Singletary gets shut down, Eckler, Brown, Godwin, and a bit of Lamar Jackson, that's it. I don't know, it doesn't really stack up to me. So I think I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to go for Pat because I keep backing Pat. I like Pat. Right? But every time I back Pat, he loses. So I'm going to back Dave.
Well, I just written both pick Pat down here because I'm going with Pat, so which makes me glad that you did, because I blocked Pat last week, and he obviously came off. So that should hopefully mean I get it again.
Pat team, though. I'm going to say this. I said, although I'm going to back Dave, that's it. I'm actually going for Pat, by the way.
Oh, so, okay. I will change that. That's okay. Yeah, no.
That's where my conscience is.
Sure. No, I think it's a pretty good deduction. Like you say, my dad's team hasn't been firing like it was at the start of start of the season. Like you say, Jackson's not been quite on it. Neither is the Ravens offense. There's talk that he's a little banged up as well at the moment, bereft of pass catchers behind Andrews, who's also probably not fully healthy either. Godwin's had a bit of a renaissance of late, but as we said, the Saints can be a bit of a bogey team. Brandon and Eckler are obviously good, though Brown is prone to quite a game as well at times. Just it's, again, one of those fairly lower passing volume offenses. And then Singletary, Pierce, you don't know what you're going to... Pierce seemingly has hit the rookie wall. As you say, the poor quarterback play is not helping at all. On paper, it's a good matchup, but Cleveland did a fairly good job against the Bucs run game last week as well. And then the Niners D, they are a great unit, but like you say, this is probably among, if not the stiffest test they've faced so far this season. And they're not fully healthy themselves either, I don't think. Whereas you already said it on the other side. Lots of good players, lots of nice matchups. What more can you want? So yeah, Pat for me as well. Injury wise, Devontae Smith, I'm not exactly sure what injury I think he picked up in the game last week. Just pop open here, groin limited, that was it. Yeah, so he probably will play. Jacoby Myers, he will play tonight. He'll play through that shoulder injury. AJ Dillon questionable as well, but he will play through his quadriceps injury also. Other than that, no more injuries. Like I said, Jackson a bit banged up, but he's going to play. That does bring us to the end of the previews for week 13. So yeah, next time you hear us. It's going to be interesting because it's going to be last chance saloon for everybody with the week 13 rearview mirror and the final week ahead of us, and then obviously we are at the promised land, the playoffs after that. So you're welcome to watch the games of mine on Sunday if you would like to do so, and obviously we will have World Cup games on as well for the benefit of the two TVs. Thank you for joining us, Chris.
Yeah, you're very welcome. It's nice to be back.
Yeah, it's good to have you back. My voice rarely can carry through the hour and a half on its own, so it's nice to have the rest periods if nothing else, but the good chat is also good. Thank you for watching, listeners. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Good luck have a good weekend, I should say. Good luck in your matchups, unless you're playing me, of course. Goodbye.